Is it possible for an amateur poker player to become a high-stakes poker player without a poker coach and without studying any poker charts? We're about to find out. Now, phase one of this challenge is simple. We're going to grind low to medium stakes poker, win $10,000, and once we do that, we'll take our shot.
So far, we've won just under $1,300 over the course of 6 sessions. Now, I believe that number would be a lot higher if I chose to play in better games. I have a bad habit of playing in fun games over good games. So it's time for me to change that. Today, I'm making an hour drive all the way over to the Fort Card Room in Aledo, Texas. This place is known for their deep-stacked, wild 1-3 games. You can buy in for $1,000. So I take 10 $100 bills to the cage, trade them for some chips, find my seat. Now it's time to lock in. For the first hour, I don't play any significant hands, but I do pick up on 2 tendencies that half the players at this table have. Number 1, they do a lot of limping. And number 2, they do a lot of calling. There's hardly any 3 bets in almost every hand. There's 4, 5, or even 6 players in the hand. So my goal is simple. Exploit all of these players. If you guys thought I was exaggerating, watch this hand. I'm on the button straddle. At the fort, this means I get ultimate last action. Now, I look down at a trash hand, but under the gun, the +2 and the small blind all limp. Then the big blind makes it 30, and they all call. Again, my hand sucks, but I'm getting great pot odds, and I'll be playing this entire hand in position. So I call. The flop comes 8 high, giving us top pair. Action checks all the way to me. I bet 80. The big blind and the player in middle position both call. So we're still 3 ways to a turn, and it's just wham! The king of spades, giving us top 2. Only problem is the front door flush does come in. And when they both just call on the flop, I have to assume at least one of them had a flush draw. So when they both check, I'm not falling for it. I check as well. The river is the queen of diamonds, and to my surprise, they both check. Okay. I don't think either player is checking a flush here, so we should almost always have the best hand in this spot. So I have to bet. I bet $200, and they both fold. It's been almost 2 hours, and I picked up 0 premium hands. So I started to play some not so good hands, which is why when I look down at deuce 4 suited, I think it looks amazing. Under the gun opens at 15, the +1 calls. I love my hand, so I call, and that brings in the entire city of Aledo. So 7 ways to a flop we go, and we flop ourselves a flush draw. Action checks to me. You are out of your mind if you think I'm betting into 6 other players with a 4 high flush draw. I check, action checks through. The turn is another 9. Once again, action checks to me. All right, let's take a little stab at it. I bet 30 just to try and get some players to fold. The button calls, and everyone else folds. So somehow that actually worked. The river is the ace of hearts, giving us a flush. Now I can bet for some value. I bet $80. And this is why you don't play deuce 4. The button raises to 200. I literally bet everything I own that this guy has a higher flush than me right now. Like I said, there hasn't been any raising at this table, only calling. So when someone finally raises, it's just the nuts. That's all it is. It's just the nuts. I don't think about it too long. I fold. He doesn't show, but there's like a 0% chance that our little baby flush was good there. Another 2 hours go by of a whole lot of nothing. My stack goes from this to this and back to this. The wildest thing that's happened to me is I've chopped up a bomb pot. Meanwhile, stacks are flying around the table and I'm just sitting there watching people get rich. That's until I look down at ace king of diamonds. The player to my left opens at 25. I'm terrified to scare him off, so I 3-bet small to 60. I just want to play a hand for a change. Action folds all the way back around, and he decides that little 3-bet was way too small. He 4-bets to $200. If this guy has aces, I'm going home. But not just yet. I want to see a flop first. I just call. The flop comes ace high. This is a great flop. It makes it a lot less likely that our opponent has aces. Or does he? He bets 200 again. There's no way I'm folding, but the question is, are we drawing dead or are we chopping with ace king? I decided to just call and see what he does on the turn. The turn comes the 4 of hearts. My opponent doesn't take much time at all before going all in. I basically snap call for my remaining 565. I'm pretty sure we're chopping.
Ace king, we're probably chopping.
You got an ace?
I do have an ace.
But my opponent doesn't sound happy about me having an ace, so we might actually be scooping this pot. The river is the jack of spades, and my opponent mucks. So we're scooping in a nearly $2,000 pot in a 1-3 game. I'm sitting with a mountain of chips now, but the heater is just beginning. 10 minutes later, I pick up pocket sevens on the button. I put on the $10 straddle. Per usual, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 limpers. The blinds fold. I want this pot to be bigger so that when I do flop a set, I can actually get paid. So I raise to 35. As expected, all the limpers call. 5 ways to a flop, and it comes deuce king 6. I really thought I was going to win this hand by flopping a set. Right, you're wrong. Action checks all the way to me. I bet small for $40 to narrow down the field. Everyone folds except the low jack. So now we're heads up to a turn, and it's the 7 of diamonds. I really thought I was going to win this hand without making a set. Once again, you're wrong. The low jack checks again. There's a strategy I've been trying for the past month. I bet tiny to hopefully induce a big raise from my opponent. So far, it's worked a total of 0 times. But why not try again? I bet $60. My opponent thinks for 2 whole seconds and jams all in. I snap call. The river is the queen of hearts. I show the set of sevens, and he mucks. So within 10 minutes, we go from being down $40 to up nearly $1,400. And we're not done. A few hands later, I pick up pocket jacks. This is usually the hand that I give away all my profit with, but not this time. Open to $25 and only get called by the button. The flop comes ace high and goes check, check. The turn's a brick. I bet small, and my opponent folds. So we make a whopping $28 with pocket jacks. But then 1 orbit later, I peel 1 ace, followed by another. The hijack opens to $25. Now this is the same opponent that I just stacked 30 minutes ago when I had ace king. I 3-bet to 60. It folds all the way back to the hijack. This time, he just calls. The flop comes king high with 2 clubs. My opponent checks. With straight and flush draws on deck, I should probably size up on this flop. But I don't. Instead, I bet $40. He calls. The turn is the 3 of diamonds. My opponent checks again. I still think I have the best hand, but if my opponent has anything worse than a king, I don't think he's calling a turn bet here, so I check it back. The river is a brick. Now my opponent decides to lead out on this river for $70. He only has around 300 left in his stack, and I think our hand is way too strong just to call. Now I could raise small to like 175 or 200, but instead, I decide I'm going for it all. I jam all in, and he snap calls. My heart immediately sinks. I think he has 2 pair. I show the aces, and he shows ace king, which means we're scooping in another massive pot. I've been playing for 5 hours now. I started with this, fast forward 5 hours later, and I end up with this mountain of chips in front of me. And really, all the crazy hands happened over the past hour. What an absolute sun run. But it's not over yet. I pick up pocket 9s in the small blind. Under the gun limps and action folds all the way to me. I make it 15. Only the under the gun player calls. So we're heads up to a flop. It's deuce 4 7 2 clubs. I see bet for 20. He pretty quickly calls. Turns another 4. I think I still have the best hand, so I bet 45 for value. Once again, my opponent pretty quickly calls. The river is another deuce. I don't think he ever has a deuce in this spot, but I also don't think he's calling a third bet with anything worse. So I check to give him a chance to bluff. He takes the bait. He bets 90. I don't snap call because this sizing almost felt like it was for value. But ultimately, I do call. He shows ace 7, which means our pocket 9s are good. And honestly, that felt like a great spot to end this session. But wait just a second, because the heater doesn't end there. You guys really thought that was the last crazy hand of this crazy session, huh? Y'all thought that? No, I'm just kidding. That's actually the last hand of the session. All right, here are the results. Bought in the game for $1,000. Never once had to add on. Ran it all the way up. to $2,800. That's a win of $1,800, which takes the bankroll challenge above 3K once again. But look, I got big news, okay? Such big news, I had to come to my closet to tell you guys this because I don't even want my dog to hear this. All right, look, next week on Thursday, I'm playing on the Lodge live stream. I also have 2 big sessions already planned for next week, so I might dust off this entire 3K or I might run it up to 10K. You guys are going to have to stay tuned and find out. Until next time, shut your mouth, stay locked in, boys. Peace.